this on? Okay. Attention. Excuse me, I'm swallowing the last of my bagel. I want to welcome everybody. Wishing you a happy new year. It's our first meeting of the new 2025 year. Even before COVID, we started seeing stores close in our community. Since COVID, many of them have remained closed, but we've seen some new stores too. So we thought it was time to talk about, now, is this better? Is it on?
Is that a camera on?
How does this turn on?
It's on. It's for camera only.
Is this on?
Yes, but it's for camera only.
Okay. All right, here, we're going to go back to this and I'll try to shout. Anyway, today, because of what we have been seeing and not seeing in the stores in our community, we thought it was time to examine the state of the businesses in our expanded community of Larchmont Mamaroneck. So I'm going to turn the program over to today's chair, Randall Akia. Randall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. This morning, we have our wonderful panel to talk about mind our business, the state of our local economy, and our third panelist has made it just in time. So Michael Murphy, President of the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce, Gina Proia, President of the Larchmont Chamber of Commerce, and Shari Rosen, Deputy Policy and Programs for Small Business and Chambers for the county. Welcome. No worries. There's a lot of schools along this road. So, but before we get started this morning, we wanted to have Jeff do a little tidbit. I'll let Jeff open.
You know what? I forgot one thing. Because I was so excited about seeing everybody. I always ask for any announcements from our local people that represent so many different organizations in the community. So I think just for a moment, let's ask for some of those announcements. Jane, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm the supervisor of the town of Mamaroneck, and this week I gave my State of the Town address, which sort of says what happened in '24, the highlights, achievements, and what we're looking forward to '25. And I think since everyone here is community-minded, or you wouldn't be here at 8 in the morning for a bagel, I made copies to distribute to everybody. And our town clerk is here, Ally May, and she's part of this, and you all know Sabrina, she's the deputy. So thank you, and if you get insomnia, that's what you can do.
Ann?
Hi, I'm Ann Chodosh, and I'm sort of representing AARP Tax Aid. I know all of you are like, oh, taxes, but they're coming up, and they're coming up fast. And we have free tax preparation for people who don't have overly complicated returns. There is no age limit, and there is no income limit. So, we've done kids who are 16 who, worked at Playland during the summer and just want to get back their withholding, and families who, have 3 kids, both 3 jobs, trying to do that. So we have a location at Mamaroneck on Mondays and Fridays, and Nourishell Library, both libraries. Nourishell Library Tuesday and Thursday, and there's a bunch of other locations around the county. We've got about 17 in total. So I'll leave the list and the phone numbers and everything.
Thank you, and I apologize for interrupting. Jeff, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back here at Nautilus Diner. And this is a little bit of a tidbit that's related to the program today. And I used to give tidbits when we were here in Nautilus Diner. I don't know if it's going to be in the future, but anyhow, I grew up here. I attended Chatsworth School, and so I've lived in all 4 parts of the community, the 2 villages, the town, and Rhinebeck. We can't forget Rhinebeck. And so I wanted to give a little bit of reflection on what it was like retail-wise when I was a kid. First of all, the town has just a little bits and pieces of retail over by Myrtle Boulevard, over by the Nourishell border, where the Loyal Inn area is, and bits and pieces along the Post Road. where Hummocks is, and so forth. But some of the impact that I felt as a kid growing up, I went to Chatsworth School, and we always thought of Palmer Avenue retail as the Murray Avenue School kid area, and the Post Road side as the Chatsworth kid area. And we didn't really meet, you know, we didn't have soccer and all of that when we were kids. We didn't really meet until 7th grade at junior high school. The biggest change that I see by far is the advent of 95, I-95. Can you imagine, and this was true when I was a kid, all of the truck traffic came down the Post Road, through Larchmont, through the town, and through Mamaroneck Village. Can you imagine trying to parallel park on the Post Road in the retail area in Larchmont? Somehow we did it, but the thruway opened up in 1958. I remember classmates of mine, before it was really open, there were a lot of car races on 95. They knew how to get on and off. The other big change in Mamaroneck Avenue was, at the bottom of Mamaroneck Avenue, was a little more industrial than it is today. We used to have a big, on the corner of Mamaroneck Avenue, there used to be a big Mitchell oil place with huge oil tanks. And a guy named Alec Guest ran a fuel oil delivery, and the fuel barge would come right in and put its bow against the bridge that was recently rebuilt. Also, as you go down into Harbor Island, there was an enormous sand and gravel business, and right in Harbor Island. And so that started, that first block of Mamaroneck Avenue was a lot more industrial. What are more changes? We used to have 3 bowling alleys. I don't know if anybody remembers where they were. Jane, of course, remembers where they were. Where were they, Jane?
Where Staples is?
Yeah, where Staples is, up in the town, and that was Loyal Inn Bowling.
Like the parking lot across from the village.
Yeah, in the back of Hunter Lot in Mamaroneck. And the
think-
third one,
I think it was on Palmer Avenue in Larchmont, like somewhere on the.
it was above Longford's Ice Cream on the 2nd floor. I used to set pins there when I was a kid. The effect in the town, other than 95 going in, the effect of the town, I think of 2 things during my lifetime. We got rid of Larchmont Motel, but we lost cooks. Too bad. When I was a kid, there were retail stores, particularly on the Chatsworth side. There were a lot of people who ran those stores who lived in the area. I remember Koch's Fish Store. The Koch family lived on Yoakum. There was a classmate of mine, Johnny Cardasis. His father and uncle ran a flower shop. Dickie Donofrio ran Larchmont Print. There was a lot of that, and particularly in Mamaroneck too, there were a lot of homegrown businesses, Miller's and Roberts and Margolis's men's store, and so forth. That's changed a little bit, although I'm happy to know that there are still a lot of local businesses where people live in the community. We've had a decrease in the amount in the hardware stores. I mean, we lost Brewers. Fortunately, we have Foley's in Larchmont. An interesting fact that the Merrill family runs Foley's. The grandfather, Gil Merrill, used to run a Merrill's Hardware on Palmer Avenue, on the north side of Palmer Avenue. So we have those 2. There's a decrease in the number of local banks. We used to have Larchmont Federal Savings and Loan. We used to have Mamaroneck Federal Savings, which turned into Sound Federal Savings. We had Union Savings Bank. Even the chains were local. The County Trust and the NBW, National Bank of Westchester. Now there are, as far as I know, no local banks. The other interesting thing is that and Peggy Jackson, I'm thinking of you, there are real estate. There used to be tons of local one-off real estate agencies. In Larchmont, there was Thomas B. Sutton, which morphed into Sutton and Whittemore. We had Bob Plout. We had Mabel Mitchell of Merritt Real Estate. We had O&A Mandeville Mandy, who was also supervisor for the town of Mamaroneck, and he controlled Chatsworth Gardens. If you wanted to list your house and get an apartment in Chatsworth Gardens, you had to go list your house with Mandy. He ruled the area. In Mamaroneck, we had Houghton and Banks, and Bill Massey worked there, and Bud Banks, and Peter C. Dorn, Stephen J. Realty. We have the growth of restaurants, which you will all see. In 1990, there were 15 restaurants and 59 others. Today, it's reversed. There are 23 others and 45 restaurants. I want to propose that you look at the Historical Society websites of both Larchmont and Mamaroneck. They are terrific. Support them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I think I'm going to sit since I'm not going to have you guys stand. So we were going to do individual introductions. So I'm going to have to start with Mike Murphy.
Thank you very much. It's great to see some very friendly faces in here. My favorite architect, Larry Gordon's. That makes me feel good. Maybe there's a job for Murphy Brothers down there. So, yes, and also there's the head of, he's the liaison of the Chamber of Commerce there, Joe Melito. Stand up, Joe. Raise your hand, stuff like this. Joe is very important to the village of Mamaroneck and the Chamber of Commerce. I'm Michael Murphy. I've been to many of these things. I'm delighted to see so many people here. My day job is that I work for Murphy Brothers Contracting. I'm responsible for business development. My volunteer job in the village is that I'm the head of the Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Gina Proia. I'm the president of the Larchmont Chamber of Commerce. Newly appointed, about a month in, so be kind. But prior to that, I was on the board for a couple of years. I've been a Larchmont resident for about a dozen years. My background is in corporate America, really, up until the past year where I've sort of made that pivot. But prior to that, nearly 30 years in corporate life as a chief marketing and communication officer for the first half in the auto industry, the second half in banking. And sort of bringing that skill set into small and mid-sized businesses as a consultant locally. But also very involved in the chamber, in the school district, and in a few other places in the community that are important to me. I'd just give a shout out to the neurodiverse community, which is a huge part of our community, FYI. And you'll hear me talk more about that in the future. But I'm honored to be here and to talk about Larchmont.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Shari Rosen Ascher. I am the Director of Policy and Programs for Small Business and the Chambers of Commerce for Westchester County. This position was created by our friend George Latimer and our congressman, specifically to address the needs of local businesses. Typically, offices of economic development deal with very big businesses and attracting big companies, but the county executive then knew that the pulse of Westchester really is the main streets. So we've done a whole lot of things, which I'll talk about, as we go through. But and I also am an elected official in Dobbs Ferry, where I live, which is why I was late, because it took me like 50 minutes to get here. But as Michael will tell you, I love Mamaroneck. I'm always happy to be here, and it's an honor to be here this morning.
Thank you, Shari. So we're going to pretty much turn it right back over to Shari. We wanted to start with having a quick overview of the state of the business in the county and kind of post-COVID.
Well, obviously COVID changed everything for everybody in many ways, personally, professionally, emotionally, socially, and we too had to adapt and change what we were doing. So during COVID, we gave out $40 million in grants to small businesses, MWBEs, chambers of commerce, and not-for-profits. We set up vaccine sites for small businesses and specifically restaurant owners. We gave out PPE. We held, numerous Zoom meetings and things to make sure that everybody had the information. But some of the things that happened is we kind of shifted as everybody else, and the key word then, as you remember, was pivot. So as people were pivoting to different things, we too did that. So we created Launch 1000, which is a program to help entrepreneurs to go from a great idea to a great business. We've launched, I think, 400 or 500 businesses since then. We also created Element 46, which was a tech accelerator, and we focused in on ways we could help. We also created the Downtown Improvement Grant. The Downtown Improvement Grant is money that the county was giving to municipalities through a competitive grant process to help with their downtown areas, whether it's facade improvement, lighting improvement, wayfinding, and we basically listened to what the needs of the communities were by having me go to 1 million chamber meetings and talking to as many people as possible and working very closely with the director of the Minority Women in Business Enterprises, Martha Lopez, to see what we can do. And we created programs accordingly to what people were telling us that they need. So what we're seeing now is a real growth in entrepreneurship and people stop necessarily schlepping to the city all the time, and they wanted to find ways to be more present in their own communities. And I could speak personally that my husband, for the first 25 years we lived here, basically slept in Westchester, and that was it. When COVID hit and he started working at home, he started exploring more things, and I would say to him, let's take a trip to Mamaroneck, let's take a trip to Peekskill, let's take a trip to Pelham, and we would explore our own county. So people are more focused on supporting their community now, and so I think it is an opportunity for businesses that offer unique kinds of products and unique experiences for people that they can't get online, because obviously the biggest competition is not with each other. The biggest competition is online. But if you can create an experience for people where they feel like they have a relationship and a sense of expertise, then that is what's going to make the difference.
Thanks, Shari. So we wanted to drill down from there and start with how was the business community affected by COVID, again, in Mamaroneck, and we'll start with Mike.
Well, at the time, I wasn't the Chamber of Commerce president, but that chamber president, Dorothy Palomares, who's also again, it's a volunteer position. She is the assistant general manager at Hampshire Country Club, but she stepped up in a big way to reach out to the business community to find out what they needed. And Mamaroneck, if you recall, had that double whammy of Ida, which happened sort of during the pandemic as well. And so we were just trying to get out of the pandemic, and all of a sudden we had to deal with the floods, and the floods hit the business community in a very big way. So it did prove our resilience, I will say that much. Another thing, too, is on the positive side, we had a lot of home businesses wanting to join the Chamber of Commerce. So I guess that was a good thing about the pandemic.
Yeah.
Gina?
Yeah, I'll sort of echo a little bit of what's already been said and then add, which is, our membership in Larchmont at the Chamber is about 210 right now. Roughly half of that are sort of retail businesses, what you would see when you drive through town. The other half of that are home-based businesses, professional service businesses, other types of business that I think was already well underway but accelerated through COVID. I think there's, a number of people we could all probably put our finger on, one or more who did make that pivot from I'm one, right? I was like your husband. I slept here. I only saw it in the dark. And, COVID was sort of that time when we all had to stop. We all had to pause. You had to think about, your life and how you were spending your time and energy. And a lot of people made changes. And so a lot of newer businesses that have started since that time are those types of businesses, not necessarily storefronts. Although I love knowing that where our office is now, which is above Longford's, used to be bowling alley. So thank you for the tidbit.
And I just want to give a shout out to the chambers because I found that during COVID that the businesses that were members of the chambers fared better. Now, this is not scientific, but it's anecdotal based on the number of people that I've spoken to and dealt with because they were receiving the information. They were more keyed in. I think that when I first started in this position and I went to my first chamber meeting, literally someone said to me, "Why is the county here? What are you doing at our chamber meeting?" It was not a Mamaroneck chamber.
Of course not.
And I had to figure out, like, yeah, what am I doing here, you know? And it really was to build the partnership between local government and local business. And I think that for so many people, the resources at the county are the best kept secret, and I don't want it to be that way, you know. So we are continuing our efforts to really make sure that we are a good partner. We're not an obstacle. We're not something that you want to try to avoid. And so the businesses who were on the receiving end of the sometimes 7 or 8 emails I would send a week updating everything because things would change, really were better prepared to handle what was coming next. So I just encourage everybody to, touch base with the chamber and stay in touch with the county because we are here to help.
Fantastic. So I wanted to follow up generally with Gina. What type of businesses, you kind of touched on what type of businesses closed during the pandemic, what type of new businesses open, and again, how do you think the business community in Larchmont adapted?
So, I will just give a thank you to Shari and the county before I say anything else because they were instrumental in helping that funnel of communication during a really murky time. They did offer, the test kit, the PP when it was hard to get, and that allowed us to make sure that our members and their employees, had access to information and had access to things. So I just want to echo the critical role that the county did play in that time. In terms of the kind of businesses, I'm not going to sort of go, specific by specific, but I think there's some themes. In my view, COVID was an accelerator for changes that were already, underway. I think, retail is different. It just is. We love it, and we have some amazing, beautiful places to go peruse, and I encourage you to shop local whenever possible in Larchmont and Mamaroneck. But people are not going to always have the time to go walk in and get what they need, right? So what COVID did was sort of force and accelerate that sort of multi-channel shopping experience. People were forced to, beef up their online presence if they hadn't already. I have shops today, we have members today that those that really keep up their online presence and their online shopping ability have done well. We saw it through the holiday season. They had a terrific holiday season, in-store and online. It gives people choices and paths because you can't always, get where you want to get. And then there's shops that did it for COVID and then let it go. And they're having a harder time. People might just use it for browsing. People might use it for shopping. People might use it because they're shipping gifts somewhere else. They don't need to take it all home, whatever the reason. When you even look at broader economic data from the holiday season, it was by most accounts a really good holiday shopping season. Far and away, leaps and bounds, the highest category is what they call non-store retail.
Can you speak a little louder?
Oh, does this not work? Okay, should I? Okay. So the biggest category is what they call non-store retail, and non-store retail is Amazon and the like. So that is just a reality. So the more that we can reduce friction for people to shop local, the better we all are. Because I think since COVID too, there is a desire for people wanting to be more locally committed, put their dollars in their community, support the local businesses. Sometimes it's just hard to get everywhere and, make it all work. So the more we could take away those points of friction, and some local businesses do a great job at that. That's what wins at the end of the day.
Mike, did you want to chat about the Mamaroneck business experience?
Well, I will say I'd like to, if we're doing shout outs, a shout out to the Nautilus Diner, who is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, longtime member. We have our chamber meetings here a few times a year. We've got one on February 6th, if you'd like to attend. I tell you, George Latimer, our congressman, would almost always attend. Our town supervisor always attends. And this is great, as Shari said, about getting information to the business community. They're great at that. They'll come here, they'll talk about what's happening in the town, in the village, in the county, and so we walk away with information that we can disseminate to the rest of the business community. Something that's grown in Mamaroneck, as you all noticed, is restaurants. There are a lot of restaurants in Mamaroneck. It seems to be the restaurants, even if you did pre-pandemic, didn't seem to be as many restaurants. Everybody knew about one place, maybe Sal's. But now there's tons of restaurants. You go there on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday, it's packed. We're very grateful.
Mike, did you want to continue on how local government helped support the businesses, again, in Mamaroneck specifically, from COVID and the flood? And how did it help the local businesses recover?
Well, I'll just echo what Shari said. On the county side, they always gave us information. On the local side, we all had our problems. I mean, you guys have all lived here in the Larchmont Mamaroneck area, and you all know stories about Mamaroneck. So I think Mamaroneck going forward is doing a lot of great things for the business community. So we're very delighted, in fact, by the changes that happened in the village of Mamaroneck recently.
Shari, I guess, did you want to add on how the county supported the local governments?
Yeah, so one of the things that the county initiated was a good neighbor policy, and the county made a commitment to work very closely with the local governments. That also, pre-George Latimer, that wasn't necessarily the case. And as you know, there are 45 municipalities in Westchester, and everyone is unique, and everyone has their own government, and everyone has their own school district, and it's sometimes very difficult to get things done because people are working in a silo. During COVID, George Latimer set up weekly meetings with the school districts and with the local officials to keep the information going, because odds are if the Mamaroneck School District had an issue with something, then the Irvington School District had a similar issue. We did the same thing with the chambers. We created a lot of multi-chamber events and situations to make sure that nobody had to solve every problem on their own. The county really tried to be a partner in this, and as I said before, that we took the ARPA money that we got from the federal government and we invested a lot of it into the local business community. I think it was the first time ever that a local government, that the county government gave grants specifically to chambers of commerce, and that was, I insisted that happen when they were giving out grants to the businesses as well. And as Gina said, we set up vaccine things, we gave out tests, we gave out PPE, and we continue to try to be a partner in your success and not an obstacle to your success. And I just think, as I said before, that nobody thinks, oh, maybe I'll call the county and see if they could help. We also have a website. It's westchestercatalyst.com. That is the website specifically for the Office of Economic Development. We have a huge resource page that is everything. The number one request that we get from businesses is access to capital. Where can I get a grant? Where can I get? So we have a huge listing of, now most of those grants are not county grants, but they're state grants, they're private foundations, they're different kinds of organizations, because we know that that's the number one thing that you need. We set up meetings and events that specifically address access to capital, or how to get a contract with the county, or things like that. So we're doing, what we can, but we're only as good as the information that we get from everybody. So I encourage everybody to keep the lines of communication open, and if you don't feel comfortable calling the county for whatever, then reach out to these two, and they're in touch with me all the time, and we'll see what we can do. We've helped businesses. The number one thing coming out of COVID for a lot of businesses was that they didn't have employees. So, with the restaurants were the first to feel it, to feel the hit of COVID, and then they were the last to kind of recover. And so we've held countless job fairs, and we've had job fairs, and we're not workforce development, right? But we knew that this was important as an economic driver. So we had job fairs. Our first one was specifically for the construction industry, and one company hired 25 people that day on the spot. We've had 5 job fairs for people with disabilities that have been hugely successful and have really helped an untapped population find gainful employment and help these employers find really loyal employees in a place that they wouldn't have searched before. We've had job fairs for people who left the workforce and are re-entering the workforce, which is a lot of my friends personally. We had job fairs for people who speak multiple languages. We've had job fairs for people in tech. If there is an industry that needs help, we've tried to help them, and it's kind of out of the box thinking, because it isn't really, it's not my job necessarily to work on that, but we know that it's an economic driver, so we're here to help.
Thank you. So I did want to drill down a little bit, specifically into how local government and county government help the businesses. I would almost specifically say because of the flooding. And again, knock on wood, we haven't had a major event in a bit. But again, if any one of you wants to comment on the state of the support and or where we might get more support.
First of all, delighted that the Westchester County government has set up a liaison with the Chamber of Commerce. Couldn't get anybody better than Shari. So I think the county is really aware of what's going on down here. I mean, Mamaroneck, is sort of at the bottom of the bucket in the county, and so we sort of get everybody's water. They've established a county, like a flood czar, for lack of a better word. Yes, and we're looking forward to having them work with that person and his group work with us on trying to establish what we can do going forward. So I'm confident that you guys have it in hand.
I will say that, even before Ida, I got requests from the hurricane before that, that people asked me, and it's not necessarily, a county thing, it was a FEMA thing, it was a federal. However, once again, I always tell people, please call me. I'm probably not the right person, but I will try to connect you to the right person. So I see myself sometimes as a yenta, as a matchmaker, and I'm trying to get everybody to the right level of government, because even if it's not the county, I'm not going to say, oh, it's not the county, bye. I'm going to try to find out who it is. The county has made a big commitment because, flooding has affected every part of the county. Mamaroneck certainly got hit the worst, but it's something that with climate change and everything going on, it's not getting any better, right? So now we have somebody appointed to that, and luckily now we have a congressman who is very familiar with Mamaroneck, and I think that ultimately that will be helpful.
Yeah, one thing we're looking forward to is like in our area there, and I know you all know, like the Washingtonville area, Mamaroneck Avenue north of the Metro North tracks, is that you'll have a number of residences, and then you'll have a business. Now the government will reach in and help the residences, but all we have is like small business loan kind of, this curious machinations of trying to get money to try to get your store back up, and it's not that easy for the businesses. It's kind of, even today there's another round of Ida. Right now, 4 years there, 3 years after Ida, we're still getting loan money available to the residents, but the businesses are still wondering what happened to me. So, and what happens is, if you're aware of Mamaroneck, Bellotta Kitchens is a longtime member of the Chamber of Commerce, longtime resident, people in business in the village of Mamaroneck. I mean, they rebuilt 3-4 times, I think it was, for different types of floods. This is not floodings, to get their retail store back up again, and they stopped. They said, why do it again? Because the Army Corps of Engineers said no matter what they do, they're still going to have 6 inches of water which is going to ruin everything, right? They can't stop that. So they moved down the street, and they're going to have a grand opening at Calico Corners, if you know where that is, down by Mamaroneck, or the entrance to 95 right there. So they're trying to stay in the village, but they need a lot of help. Business needs help.
I totally echo that. I drive by there every day and I think to myself, well, that's... Gina, what role do you see the Chamber of Commerce playing in attracting new stores to the town?
Well, I think one of the important roles that we play is, I'm not a very loud person. Maybe I have to stand up or something.
Stand up. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Make sure everybody hears you.
Loud enough. Okay. I think one of the important roles that we play is to really create that sense of community for businesses, because whether there's difficult times or good times, when you're an independent business owner, you got a lot to do in a day. You can't sort of figure out necessarily your own network all the time. But when you're part of an organization that can help bring together the rest of your local business community, others that you might not have, gotten a chance to get to know or chat with, that adds value. And we've seen so many of our members, when they come, they meet one another, they have a chance to chat and get to know each other, they team up, and they're doing a lot of collaborations. A lot of our members are, teaming up, whether it's sort of in-store for events or for, offering combined services. We actually have our monthly membership meeting tonight, and we have a group coming together that has, they're going to come and sort of share their healthy eating options. We've got a lot of wellness businesses in our community, FYI. They're coming together because they've done collaborations before to sort of target similar customers, but with slightly different offerings. And I think those kinds of relationships and business opportunities happen when you have a chamber network and a local business community.
Mike?
So in the village of Mamaroneck, I know that many of you know that we got a new village manager. Kathleen Gill just started recently, and we've started having meetings with her and have a number of meetings with different types of businesses in the village of Mamaroneck. We have like a restaurant summit at the end of the month here for the restaurant owners. So Joe Melito, our government liaison, myself, and some of the other members of the Chamber of Commerce are looking forward to working with Ms. Gill and also with our new planner. We had a new planner was in December, and Dan Siegel. And we have this great team there in the village of Mamaroneck. We're looking forward to working with them, Chamber of Commerce and the village, to get a vision for what the village of Mamaroneck should be on the business side of things. I mean, like, if you're thinking of coming to the village of Mamaroneck to open up a pizza place, an ice cream place, or a bagel place, we say, go someplace else. We've got enough of them, right? I say, yeah, go to that. We got wonderful places that serve ice cream, pizza, and bagels. We need more diverse types of stores in the village of Mamaroneck.
In my nighttime job as a trustee in Dobbs Ferry, one of the things that a group did in Dobbs Ferry a couple of years ago was to send out a downtown survey to residents and stakeholders to ask, what is it you would like to see in the village? And compiled a list, so that then we hired a downtown advocate as on a consultancy basis to go out and try to attract those types of businesses. So the county does work to attract businesses to Westchester, period. It's not to any particular area. But the local people are the people who know. I mean, I bet if we just asked everybody here, what would you like to see, there would be some common themes. And then you kind of know what you can go after and what makes sense because people will support those businesses because those are the businesses they said they wanted.
Right, but you have to balance that with the fact that, people say, well, we want coffee shops and bookstores, but, do they make money? You still have to have businesses that actually make money.
So, as a perfect segue to our next question, although we've answered what type of businesses we feel are most likely to prosper, bagels, ice cream, and I forget the third one. Pizza.
Yes.
What do you feel the biggest challenges to the other kinds of businesses are? I'll start with you, Mike.
First of all, I want to thank Jeff for that great thumbnail look of Mamaroneck's history there. It was interesting when you think about the different kinds of businesses that used to be in the area there. Unfortunately, if you think about the businesses in Mamaroneck, what they used to be is, and he attested to that, is they used to be people that lived in Mamaroneck or in Larchmont. So not only did they live there, but they were part of the community fabric. They voted there. Today, it's not like that at all. I mean, there might be a very small percentage of people that own businesses in Mamaroneck that live in the village. They can't vote. They go home at night. So they spend their 12-hour days. They come at 6 in the morning, leave at 6 at night, and they're relying on people like the Chamber of Commerce to give them like what's happening in the village. But I think that's a problem with businesses. Is that something that we have to deal with? Is that we have outside ownership? So and then getting the information to them.
Gina for Larchmont?
In terms of challenges. Oh, for goodness sake. Okay.
Just stand.
In terms of challenges, it'll be no surprise for me to say parking is a challenge. Parking is a challenge. I think, we do have great local businesses. We have a sweet little downtown. We have reasons for people to come. We have nice restaurants. Not as many, but some. Pizza, bagels. Our bagels have multiplied too. We have reasons for people to come in town. We have to keep putting front and center, how do we reduce the friction of people wanting to come and be in town? And for us, it's that parking. And, I was explaining to Randall too, so sort of our layout in Larchmont is a little unique in that it's got two downtowns. So if you have parking at one end, it doesn't mean it's going to help you on the other end, right? Or vice versa. So it's parking and it's in the right place.
Okay, I have never been in a community in Westchester where they didn't think that parking was a problem. So I'm going to say that I don't think parking is a problem. I think walking is the problem. I grew up in Brooklyn, and I lived in Brooklyn Heights before I moved here. If I found a spot within 5 or 6 blocks of where I wanted to go, score, right? When I go to a concert at the Beacon Theater, if I park on 85th Street, great, so I think that the issue, and maybe because I didn't grow up in the suburbs and we walked everywhere, is that people don't want to walk. So I will say that I think that I had said to George Latimer when I first started in 2018, and I started going to meetings, that I wanted to give everybody Fitbits, and I wanted to see which municipality could get the most steps, because I think that most of the downtown, and Mamaroneck specifically, totally walkable. So, I don't care if you're parked at one end or the other end, it's like 3 blocks. It's not like a big deal. So, that's one thing. I think the biggest challenges facing businesses are 2 things. The rent is too damn high, right? So, and we don't have affordable housing. So that means that even if somebody opens a business here, their workers can't afford to live here. And this goes from the very biggest businesses to the very smallest businesses. You need to hire somebody, and they need to live in Putnam County because they can't afford to live here. They're not going to be driving an hour and 20 minutes every single day. They're going to go find a job where they live. So we need to really make Westchester more affordable for the workforce so that then we have people we can hire, and we have to really think about that. So I think that is a huge problem. The when we did the downtown improvement grant and we had professional urban planning consultants go to the 5 communities that won the grant, every single one of them said the issue was parking. The consultant said it wasn't parking, it was that people didn't know where to park. It was wayfinding. So if you live in Mamaroneck, then you probably know where to park in Mamaroneck. But if I come to go to one of your wonderful restaurants on a Friday night, I don't know where to park. If there aren't signs telling me where to go, unless I really, really, really want to go, and you have a couple of, real destination restaurants that people are coming from all over the county to go to. So I suggest that everybody really look into wayfinding and making sure that people know where parking is available and that they know if you park here, it's 2 blocks away. Some places have put little footsteps on the thing so you can see how many steps it is to the next place. So.
Yeah, she's a public service announcement here. For all those that are listening out there, the 100 Tier lot is more than just a political lightning rod. It's actually a parking lot, which is actually, you can just walk from the 100 Tier lot right over to the Mamaroneck Theater.
It's funny that it is actually a functioning parking lot, or somewhat functioning. Wanted to wrap it up and say, how can organizations like the local summit support our local Chamber of Commerce's? And I'll start with Shari.
Well, I think it's amazing that there's so many people here this morning. So right away, that's the start. And if each one of you spoke to 2 other people, and they spoke to 2 other people, and so on and so on, I think that's how it is, because I spent 25 years of my life in sales, and I will say that people don't buy your product, they buy the salesperson, they buy the person. So getting a referral from someone that they trust, if you tell them that, you know what, I went to this meeting and it seems like the chamber is really doing a great job. I really, I think we should go to the next meeting and check it out. They're going to listen to you more than someone just, knocking on the door. So you all should become ambassadors for your local chambers and to help each other out. And I think what Gina said is really important too, about building partnerships with each other, and finding interesting ways to partner up. Because there may be somebody who knows your business, but they don't know the person sitting next to you's business. But if you work together to help promote one another, that could go a long way.
I would agree that it's, partnering up and it's leading by example. I think that, shopping local, as a reminder, I'm a billboard today, but shopping local whenever you can, making that choice to put your dollars back in your local community. There's been a lot of different studies and data around this. The one that I, usually come back to is for every dollar you put back into a local independent business, about 54 cents of that stays in the community. Compared to, a sort of big box or chain operation, it's maybe 14 cents stays in the community. So it really does help fuel, supplies, workers, community investment, wages, all of those things, whenever you can make that choice to support a local business. So get out there.
So how many people know where Director Shipyard is? You do? Oh, good. Okay. How many years have they been in the community, Jeff?
Since Bob Director started it, it's probably in the 50s.
1947, actually, it opened up there. So last week they had a commissioning. The chamber was invited to. They had a commissioning of 2 ferries, which are like cutting-edge technology in electric hybrid ferries. Now, these ferries were who shopped local? It was the people of the city of Savannah. They came down, they sent the mayor of Savannah, the head of the Chamber of Commerce with 1,200 members, the head of tourism of Savannah, the commission of, the ferry boat commission, Joe? I mean, a number of people from Savannah were there to break the champagne bottle on these 2 ferries, which were going to be, it was a cold day. They weren't ready for it. They were bundled. Anyways, so we were there, chamber members, the chamber board members were there to thank them. Jane, you were there. It was a great day, wasn't it? They shop local, and all we can do is ask you to do the same thing. What I brought each one of you is a Village Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce hot off the press 2025 directors in here if you want to buy a ship, a yacht, or a ferry boat. But we've got all kinds. This is I gift for all of you right here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We wanted to open it up to any in the audience. If anybody have any questions, raise your hand. Oh, there's one in the corner there.
It's sort of a comment and then a question. So to Mr. Murphy, the Mamaroneck Theater is wonderful. I no longer have to drag myself over to Ridge Hill or any of those other theaters because it's great. And the people that they have working there, who are mostly, it appears to be kids from the schools, are excellent as well. And I've had friends come all the way from Tarrytown to this theater, and then we go out to dinner. So kudos to Mamaroneck for getting that work done. So now my question is to the lady from Larchmont, what's going on with that theater?
I had a feeling you were going there. I don't have a magical answer. There's been fits and starts to my knowledge. I haven't heard anything in a while. We all very much would love to see it come back to life. Yeah. Carrie, do you have any?
Well, I think we know who owns it. We know who owns the property, but that owner has had his own ups and downs and is going through some things. So I would really like to see the village government reach out to whoever they can there and see if we can get something going there. But I'm a chamber member and I was secretary for many years, so we got that question a lot. But this goes along with any other property where you see, the paper is up in the windows and nothing's going on. It comes down to the ownership of the building. And so, we would really, I think it's time to help. It's time to help. I'm also on the Arts Committee in the Village of Larchmont, and we would very much like to help with that.
Yeah. Thank you for raising it. You'll put it back on my radar to reach out about it. And I will just put in a plug that Larchmont did welcome a lot of new businesses last year. We actually had a dozen brand new storefronts that went up in 2024. So that was the good news, but still that big one remains.
Any other questions?
Hi, Shari, thank you everyone for all your insights. You guys have been so interesting. Shari, I would love to know, given your purview and given your experience dealing with different communities, if there's any other lessons from any other community that you've seen is finding innovative ways around these challenges. I mean, you said the parking issue is common, the high housing prices. This is obviously not unique to this community. I love the Fitbit idea, the Fitbit challenge to get people to walk more. Are there any examples or any lessons from other areas that you've seen that we should be thinking about applying here?
Yeah, I think, and I also could speak as a municipal official too. I think that having somebody at the, excuse me, my phone's ringing. Having somebody at the local level who's dedicated to business attraction that isn't, an elected official, who are basically volunteers who aren't necessarily experts at economic development, but having somebody focused on that. So I'll give you a good example. Hastings on Hudson. They, years ago, pre-COVID, probably like 6 years ago, whatever, had a real problem with vacancy rates. And while it's a lovely little village, on the water and lots of artists, there was just empty storefront. So they hired a downtown advocate who was paid on a consultancy basis, like a certain fee per month. And she was someone who lived in the community, worked in the community with an expertise in PR and marketing. And she talked to all the landlords, because a lot of times the big obstacle of business coming in are absentee landlords. And that is common in every single community. So you have all these empty storefronts, they're writing them off. right? And they don't necessarily, maybe the original owners are either no longer with us and it's the grandchildren, or they're retired to Florida, and it's very difficult and burdensome for somebody who's even interested to do it. So she spent time talking to the landlord. She also, Hastings has, as Larchmont has, a phenomenal farmers market. And she talked to a lot of the people who came to the farmers market every week about if they were interested in having a brick and mortar store in Hastings. And then she would help find them the properties. And she filled, I think, almost 90% of the vacancies. You know, so she was someone who worked with the local government, worked with the landlords, worked with the businesses, and so I think it is, you know, it's an investment. And if you want a return on your investment, you have to make an investment, and it's very difficult to do that, you know, because, you know, municipal government is so focused on a pothole and a sinkhole opens up and they have to deal with wires coming down, and everything's like an emergency reactive situation. But this is something proactively. You make a commitment to doing this and you find the right person who can work to do that. And almost every community has people in the community that are no longer working full time, have an expertise, understand the village, understand, you know, have connections with people, and I think that is something, and that's kind of, I modeled the downtown improvement grant process on seeing what happened in Hastings. So to me, that is a prime example of, if you're really focused on solving the problem, you have to throw a little money at it and a little expertise, and in time, it could help.
Good morning. We had a lot of discussion about COVID. I'm a relatively new store owner in Larchmont. I had my grand opening. Sorry. I had my grand opening the first week of the COVID lockdown. Timing is everything. But Gina, you were talking about Larchmont's unique two-downtown structure. And recently you had the sleigh bells on the avenue promotion, and you ran the shuttle so people could get back and forth between the two downtowns. But the downtowns aren't a specific location. They're both stretched out along Palmer and along Post Road, a little bit down Larchmont Avenue in Chatsworth. So if your shuttle was a loop and you paid attention to the fringes and dropped people at one end of Palmer and a pickup at the other, they would have to get their steps in and walk the length of it to see everything, rather than let's drop you in the middle and pick a direction, go 3 feet one way, 3 feet the other, and you've done downtown, missing 70% of it. So if the downtown is a concept of an area and not a spot, you'll include more of the businesses that need the support, because out on a fringe, to get people to walk, as Shari knows, this is hard. But if you start them there and let them walk back towards the center, you'll get the traffic to everyone.
Sounds like you need to come to the chamber meeting this evening.
Yes.
I'm going to see Gypsy tonight, but the next one.
Yes, agree with your feedback. For those that don't know, we got a trolley on one day during our Sleigh Bells on the Avenue holiday events. It was on Small Business Saturday, and we attempted a loop. It was not the perfect loop, but we attempted to sort of connect those two ends of downtown, and it was during our Sip and Shop and Small Business Saturday, and you know, to get people to more easily in the cold and in the dark check out both ends of town. It's something we would love to do again, so I take the feedback. It is, you know, not without costs and a lot of logistics village-wide, but we would love to bring it back, so thank you for your feedback.
Hi. To Shari, but to any of the other people. I think one of the most interesting points you made had to do, or maybe it was you, Gina, with the disbursement of parking in downtown and how people don't understand what their options are for parking. So one of the things, you know, I don't know if this is exactly what you should do, but I could see a role for the county in some way, creating digital maps that were available so that people going to any one of the downtowns could plug in to an app and understand. I know that when Larchmont put into effect its new parking meter system, that it created a map as part of the study that was done. And I know I had a copy, a paper copy in my car, so I could understand. I know, I've lived in that village for 45 years, and I've been involved in many things. I know where the parking is, but I had no idea where I could go, that I needed to pay, where I didn't need to pay, etc. So it seems to me, rather than that paper that I've long lost, that if there was some coordinated way that the county could set up a digital app that shows all of the parking opportunities in all of the municipalities, that people could plug into. I'm going to Sleepy Hollow, and I want to, go wherever I'm going there, and I want to go to one of the historic places, or I want to go, wherever it is, to Tarrytown, and I want to go to the Tarrytown Theater, but oh my God, I got to park someplace. What am I going to do? They can plug in and say, okay, these are my parking options, and maybe that's something that the county could help coordinate.
I think that's a great idea, but the county has no control over the municipalities, so it would have to be information that was given by the municipalities, and we don't have apps at the county, so it's a very it's an expensive proposition in terms of setting it up, getting someone to manage it. Things change, and it would only be as good as the information being provided locally. I think that every municipality probably has their own website, but I don't think many of them have an app. I know in Armonk, the Armonk Chamber has an app. They're like one of the only chambers that I know of that has an app, and but even they don't necessarily include parking because things change, but they have where you can park, but not necessarily if you're going to pay or not pay, but just where the parking lots are. But that really has to be done more at the municipal level, unless all the information is given, I guess, to our Department of Transportation. But we don't have an app for any of that at the county level, but I could certainly ask if that's something.
I think your planning department has often coordinated all of
Right, but I'm saying it's not app-based, so it's always website-based. We have GIS maps for MWBEs, GIS maps for people with disabilities on where they can get information, GIS maps for housing, but we don't have a parking thing because they're all different municipal. Right. But, okay.
Morning. To a large extent, Larchmont Mamaroneck functions as one community, so what kind of collaboration is there between the two chambers?
Well, Michael and I just met about a month ago. And I've seen him like 16 times since then. So what do you think? I think there is room for collaboration, and I think we also understand some of the distinctions of our communities.
Absolutely. Good suggestion. That's great. We send our kids to the same high school. Why not? Right?
Yes.
So, yes, we will. Next year. Yes.
So one last question.
A great collaboration that Love Larchmont has is that once you're a member, you could be part of the podcast, right, in Mamaroneck? I think it's like a free interview or some.
Well, LMC, shout out to
LMC.
LMC has offered members of the chamber time in the podcast booth. I think you use it once a month.
Sorry. Yay, LMC, once a month in their podcast booth. So thank you for that. And yes, you should take advantage of it.
Yes, if I might say, could you all turn to the camera right there and give them a wave there? Where are we meeting? LMC is a Chamber of Commerce member of Mamaroneck. Thank you very much.
And Larchmont.
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I'm not sure what the topic is for next month, but we appreciate it. Thank you very much to our panel, Mike Murphy from the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce, Gina Proia from the Larchmont Chamber of Commerce, and Shari, Rosen, Ascher from the Westchester County. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you again for coming and getting up for this morning. See you next month. Bye-bye.